Welcome to a live Q&A for the Portfolio Agility Trail Map. What I've been seeing, and upon reflection, it's something I've been seeing for many years, is that agility at the team level, at the product level, is bound by a glass ceiling of how things work or don't work at the multi-product level, where budgets are allocated, where projects and initiatives are considered, and where strategies translated or not into liabilities. A lot of the time, what we see is a lot of effort that we spend on getting teams to be more agile, to work more effectively, but we're not really seeing the outcomes of that because of how the organization is managing them. What this manifests as is a lot of effort on rituals and what we might call agile theater, maybe even teams that are able to sprint or use Kanban and are delivering some stuff, but we're not really seeing outcomes that resonate for the business or move the needle. So what do we do about that? There are already techniques for how to pay attention to the portfolio level. Part of the problem with these techniques, such as FLPM, is that they're pretty heavy, which creates a situation where organizations are afraid to start at that level. So they spend more and more time on team level agility and are afraid to tackle the portfolio level. What I've been trying to do here, based on the work in the trenches, is to come up with a lighter weight to get started at the portfolio level. And this is actually based on something that I've been doing for more than a decade, which is to help organizations start with focusing on flow. So let's talk about what the Portfolio Agility Trail Map is. It's an email course. It includes 6 days, which are essentially 3 sections. The first section is establishing a view of the terrain. Essentially, what we cover in day 1 and day 2 is, why does it even happen? What are some of the patterns that we're seeing in organizations where they are getting stuck as they scale? For example, we're seeing that there are multiple products, multiple projects that are happening. There are too many dependencies across them. There are no aligned priorities, and the whole budgeting, allocation, annual planning system, all of these things don't really work that well. Some of the signs that you might be facing these issues, some of the signs for the need for a new operating system is if you are developing multiple products, multiple strategic initiatives that span, leaders are becoming a bottleneck because they need to control traffic across all of these different things. And if you're on the verge of standing up a project or program management discipline, a PMO, or if you feel like your PMO is not able to keep up with the overhead of managing everything that is going on and is becoming a bottleneck itself, and you need to add more and more resources for managing things versus actually delivering, that might be an indication that you need to think differently about the operating system. You need an operating system upgrade, which is what we start to explore on day 2 of the Portfolio Agility Roadmap. We look at what are some options on the landscape. When we get to talking about portfolio, there's an interaction with the business. So we start to hear things like OKRs and sometimes approaches like scaling up and EOS, entrepreneurial operating system, or even 4DX. There's a landscape of things in that space. There are some limitations of these approaches that we talk about in day 2. Then we look at, say, LPM, which is kind of the obvious choice for a lot of organizations, but also not the obvious choice. A lot of people look at LPM and they feel like they don't really need a portfolio. They don't see what they have as a portfolio, or they don't think they're ready. They don't think that their teams are ready enough to actually start with LPM, or they think LPM is too comprehensive, too deep, frightening for them. They don't see, safe LPM for what it is. And then we introduce the need based on what's existing and not, the need for this sort of lean, agile, product-oriented company operating system. and explore what are the principles for this sort of approach. So that's what we cover in day 1 and 2. The need, the why do we even need to do something? And then day 3, 4, and 5 go into specific steps you can take. Day 3 starts with flow, with seeing what's going on at your portfolio level, because you can't improve what you can see. So we talk about creating a Kanban board at the portfolio level based on the way you're currently managing work that cuts across multiple products, or if you call it a portfolio already, a portfolio. And then we start to actually manage the work at that level using flow techniques and flow metrics. This both helps us create a baseline towards improvement, but also we start to see how work is flowing and not really flowing. It gives us a lot of information that we can then use to figure out where are the hotspots in our portfolio where there are too many dependencies. There's too much work that cuts across the organization, which might make sense to rethink. And that's what we talk about in day 4. We scale the portfolio by organizing around products, organizing around outcomes. We use whatever the strategy is and what we need to do about it to think about how should we organize our work. Maybe we improve the flow of that work, but to really make a difference, we need to start to organize around products. And then in day 5, after we organize around products, or by the way, we could continue to work the way we have been and not really reorganize, but another perspective that we take is to start to reduce risk and improve outcomes through evidence-based management, essentially, to move the thinking on each one of those products as well as the initiatives. Here's the key point in that we introduce in the portfolio agility level is to treat the projects that do cut across products like they are products. Apply outcome hypothesis, leading indicators, a common workflow that helps us encourage evidence-based steering to these initiatives as well, not just what's happening inside each one of the products. So that's day 5. And on day 6, we essentially take a look at how do we actually approach this whole journey? How might we manage this journey in a way that is sustainable and effective? A key concept we introduce is we take a product-oriented approach to organizational change. We think about the portfolio operating system as a product in and of itself, and we develop it and iterate on it using the same techniques we use for products themselves. And we essentially treat it with agility, the change towards portfolio agility with agility. And that's basically it. It's not something you'll probably implement in 6 days, but in 6 days, you'll get an understanding, you'll get a trail map that makes it possible for you to start to think about how to drive this journey.
Thanks for this presentation. I'm just thinking about is this going to be a class, right? That's what you're saying.
Eventually, it's going to be a class. For now, it's an email course that you can take for free if you go to the open that page. So anybody that is interested in actually taking this as an email course is welcome to go to the Portfolio Agility Trail Map on my site and register to take this trail map for free. And essentially what will happen once you do that is you will be getting an email a day that takes you through the materials here. I'm still thinking about whether to turn this into a video course, a podcast, depending on, demand and interest and where this goes. That's the essence of it.
Okay, cool.
All right. Let's see if there are any questions on the live stream. Really? Just, okay. The one last thing maybe to mention is anybody is interested to see more than the email course, some more insights I've been thinking about when it comes to portfolio agility. All of this is available. Additional stuff is available on the portfolio agility space in my insights area on my side. What, for example, why am I using the term trail map instead of a blueprint? What's the right timing to actually talk about portfolio agility? How do we tackle initiative ownership, which is like product ownership or the cross product world? More and more stuff that relates to portfolio agility that comes up in the trenches when we are implementing these concepts.